Welcome in. It's an all-new Jock Market Power Hour for this week's Genesis Scottish Open. I'm Rick Gaiman. That right there, Joe Idoni. Joe, hello. Happy Wednesday night.
Hello, welcome in, gang. I'm excited to do Jock Market Power Hour. As always, things are already heating up. We've got a super fun week because we get a bunch of the familiar names that we get from week to week PGA Tour stuff, which we have data for. And then we get this influx of European DP World Tour guys that I usually rely on you on for info. And I'm sure other people in the chat are going to as well. So it is a super fun week to get us all prepped up for Hoylake coming a week from today in the final major.
Yeah, this is low-key one of my favorite field compositions because it's not like I think of like the old Honda a couple of years ago where it would be like you'd get a couple of high-end players, but a lot of the Euro guys would start making their debut on this side of the pond, and you get those guys injected, and it's like, okay, that's fine. But this is truly the top half of the field is like the best players from the PGA Tour, and then the other half of the field is like the top players from the DP World Tour. So you're getting kind of the best of both because the DP World Tour guys they definitely fly under the radar compared to everybody else, but their top 15 guys might be better than a lot of the guys on the PGA Tour.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So it's fun to see them kind of go toe to toe because initially we sort of give them the nod for this being more within their realm, but obviously they don't have the talent level and as a whole as sort of the PGA Tour guys. And it's a fun course too. Like honestly, I enjoy it. We have early mornings. You mentioned it starts a couple hours from now, but It's a good blend of like a traditional coastal linksy DP World Tour course, but it has some elements sprinkled in throughout that we see week to week on the PGA Tour. So I do think as blended as the field is, it's also sort of a blended course, it feels like, which should set up fairly for both sides of the fence.
If you are watching this live, the event, the first tee time is 6 hours from right now, which is awesome, right?
Yeah.
You know, we normally do this on a Wednesday night and you go to bed and you wait, and Thursday morning you wake up. No. Like the first tee time, and honestly, Ludwig is one of the first groups off. So it's someone very popular and in the mix is going to one of the first tee times off at my time, 11:15 p.m. So we're just a couple hours away.
Just a couple hours. Was it a nap day for you? I saw it has to be.
I've already taken a nap today. Good. Yes, I might try to squeak another one in here after the show, but yeah, I try to adjust myself towards Scottish time a little bit. But we are playing Jock Market, which is stock market DFS. It's a little bit different than some of the other fantasy games and other formats out there. Essentially, golfers or athletes, because it's not just golf, are now stocks, and you can buy them, you can trade them, you can short them. We're in the IPO right now, which means you can bid on shares of golfers. And if you're one of the high bidders when this IPO closes around 9 p.m. Eastern time tonight, about 40 minutes from now, for those following along live, those shares are allocated to you. You build a portfolio, Joe, and you rock and roll. So we can give a couple of examples. Here's my portfolio from last week. Lucas Glover made me $65 on 10 shares. Steven Yeager made me $23 on 10 shares. William Mao.
Bill Mao.
Big Bill Mao.
Yeah,
20 shares made me $118. He was my best investment. T13. And then I lost a little bit on Chez. I lost a little bit on Callum Tarrant. It was a profitable week for me, but that's how a portfolio could look, right? I didn't have anybody who won the golf tournament. My best result was Glover's T6, but Yeager finishing T13, Bill Mao finishing T13 was worth plenty.
Absolutely. Mao there, and you got him for $2.60 per share, which is unbelievable since you get $1 back if he finishes last. So really $1.60 is all you had to shell out per share on Mr. Mao, and you got back $8.50. So the difference as well as notable, which is sort of visually you can see there, is the importance of the pre-ranks. And we talk about this, and I do feel like it's oftentimes overlooked, but you had shares of two players who finished T13 and Yeager and Mao, and you'll notice that Yeager is obviously paying out a full dollar more per share. So I think that's a good illustration, especially like it's not always second or third that's shaken out. But a lot of times you'll get like a 6 or 7-way tie for 11th place. And that pre-rank does become completely important then, and could be a difference between $4 per share between the top end and the low end guys, which ultimately can make a difference on a profitable week or not.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And here were the full payouts from last week. Sepp Straka, $5.70 in IPO last week, got the full payout, $25 per share. Brandon Todd, 510 to 20. Alex Smalley, 617 to $18, so on and so forth down the list. Even Denny McCarthy, who, correct me if I'm wrong, Joe, $9.21. That was his most expensive IPO ever. Turns you a profit because he paid out $14 per share, $4.79 of profit per share. So a good week for the number 1, the number 2, and the number 3 pre-ranked golfers. They all turned a profit.
Yeah, absolutely. It was cool to see Ludwig sort of get that nod up as well and make that finish on Sunday. But you made a great point about Denny and Cameron Young. Disappointing weekends for probably both of those players. If you had an outright ticket, you felt like you had a chance. That was obviously burned up halfway through Sunday afternoon, but both were extremely profitable at over 50% ROI per share in the Jock market, which, it just sort of illustrates further why we think this app is so cool and has so many legs moving forward for all bettors of high stakes portfolios to just very casual guys who want a couple bucks in the market.
Yeah. And I think of actually, my exposure to a golf tournament in a given week as a portfolio, right? I've got outright wagers, I've got DFS lineups, I've got one and done. All of that together is my portfolio, and Jock Market is one portion of that. It's different than everything else. And do you find yourself doing what I do, Joe, which is, well, I've bet this guy, so I don't necessarily have to play him in one and done, or I've played him in one and done, so I don't necessarily have to bet him. I'm doing like a little bit of a life hedge throughout the tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. I do. And I probably shouldn't because, you and I, theoretically, we put so many hours in research and legwork into the tournament. If we really like a player in one, we should theoretically like him across the board and buy into shares of guys that we want to bet on for the week. But it doesn't always work out that way. And the interesting part about this is the prices are not being set by someone who's creating salaries that works in a corporate office. They aren't being set by bookmakers and sharp bettors. They're being set by us. They're being set by the people in this chat. So whether Cameron Young was $9.50 per share last week or $6.50 per share, it's all price dependent upon the market and the players within that, which is what makes it different, which is why I think oftentimes I do find myself more willing to take on shares of a player in Jock market, even if I don't necessarily love their odds to win or love their price point or ownership that you have to take on in other DFS formats.
Yeah, and that is just one side of the game. The new side of the game is the prop pick'em side, which we saw Jock Market tweeted out. There is a sale on Jordan Spieth right now. They raised his strokes for round 1 up 2 strokes. So now it's 70.5 from 68.5. So if you think Jordan Spieth's going to have a pretty good week, you go under, right? And you got 2 extra strokes to get there. You add that as one of your legs of your entry there, and you're ready to rock and roll. So there's a lot of different ways to get involved. We have a promo code. It's POWER. There's a link in the description that'll get you $100 deposit bonus over on Jock Market, and you can help, or you can take that money and help pad the rest of your account with a little bit of free cash along the way. Scottish Open.
Yeah.
Interesting week. We've got some guys who've been over there for a bit now. We've got an interesting field, as we've already talked about, a relatively new golf course in terms of golf courses. It's a modern course. It's just about 15 years old. What are we looking for tonight, Joe? What types of players are going to be able to battle the elements and figure out a way to get to the top of the board?
Yeah, I think number one is going to sound like I'm copping out, but you want someone who has a very well-rounded set of skills and can do everything pretty well. Number two that I'm looking for is I am putting, and I've seen sort of different takes on this. I think mostly people are sort of siding with me, but I'm going to put a much higher emphasis on driving distance than I am driving accuracy this week. 3 of the last 4 winners have finished 16th or better in driving distance, and all of them barely inside the top half of the field in terms of accuracy. So as long as you aren't very wayward offline, the penalty for a miss off the tee is not that severe. And I think having that extra 10 to 15 yards is going to be a big advantage for some players. And then 3, it's the weather, right? It's always the factor in the unpredictable variable that is thrown in with these link style courses on the coast, particularly of Scotland. So you have to pay attention to that when looking to assess players and how you think they're going to play for that day. Even Spieth tomorrow, like, we'll pay attention to the tee time. Like, tomorrow for me didn't look like so big of an advantage, but I think Friday there is definitely an advantage to a certain wave, and trying to catch guys who are playing in about half the wind as some of the guys may be forecasted to be playing in the afternoon.
Yeah, I think in general, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm thinking Thursday afternoon, Friday morning. I think
Yes.
it's the wave that you want to be on. Obviously,
Correct.
that can change in a moment's notice, but that seems to be the better side of things. Before we unveil the big board and check out the live pricing, let's play a little bit of bullish or bearish. This is our opportunity to talk about 4 players specifically and more in depth and decide whether we are bullish or bearish on them. Let's start with one guy who I know is catching a lot of handle this week. It's Tyrrell Hatton. His pre-rank for this week is the 6th pre-ranked golfer. His fair value is $8.43, which is going to ask him to finish about 16th or better. So, Joe, are you bullish or bearish on Tyrrell Hatton?
Yeah, I'm very bullish on Tyrrell this week. We haven't seen him in a few weeks, basically since the U.S. Open, but he's been on an incredible run that you see there, ball striking. I mean, that is a sexy looking chart right there and graph. He is steadily moving himself upward. He has good course history here in terms of players who have played it at least 12 rounds. I believe he is the 2nd best ball striking numbers in the entire field. Hadn't putted it great, but I think that that's something that could potentially flip for Tyrrell. And he's just been a money printing machine in the Jock market. In his last 15 markets, he's printed money and returned you an ROI in 10 of those, a 2nd place, a 3rd place finish in there. And we're just sort of it feels like he's playing so well that he's really due for a win. And I think not only this week, but next week, both set up as great opportunities for him with his skill set to outperform his expectation, potentially even notch a huge victory for himself.
Yeah, I think that's right. And, he's played at the Renaissance Club 3 times, 14th, T18, T24. There's a reason that he's going to be pretty popular, but I do think that it'll be interesting to see how this market shakes out, Joe, right? I mean, he is in other markets, he is kind of he's just bunched together with everybody else. So it'll be interesting to see if 1 or 2 of these guys kind of separate themselves from the pack tonight. Hard to be anything but bullish on Tyrrell Hatton on the numbers that we currently have for him. Let's go a little bit further up the board. The 3rd pre-ranked golfer, $9.43 per share is his fair value. That is 13th or better. The golfer that I'm referring to here, one Patrick Cantlay. Joe, bullish or bearish on PC?
For me, it's bearish. And, it's not so much that he's not returning you the numbers that we're used to out of Patrick Cantlay, although he has lost in 3 of the last 5 in terms of ROI for the week. There are 3 tournaments, Rick, that set up phenomenally for him. And I feel like if he came into those weeks with an expectation mark, he let himself down. He was the favorite. Everyone loved him and thought that he was going to win the Travelers. A 4th place is still good. Nothing to write home. The U.S. Open, he sort of did his normal storm the weekend and the end of the tournament to finish T14 while irrelevant for the first 3 days. Still underperformed there. And then the Memorial, that's his jam, the Memorial. And he ended up finishing 30th there. So a little bit off there. I worry about some of the stuff that we've seen, and I don't know if there's any statistics that can really drive some data home to back this up, but just not a guy that I want when the elements get tough. And that's strictly a personal eyeball test thing for me. But those are sort of my concerns about Cantlay, and him being the number 3 pre-ranked and essentially asking him to probably finish 12th or better this week, I think is a big ask in this type of event.
I do think that he is kind of different than some of the other guys. I think that he is, and you can kind of see it, even in his last 10 markets while he's returns you a 27% ROI. He's 50-50 in terms of if he wins you money or not. I think that he seems to disappoint more frequently than some of his peers, but when he plays well, you get like a better return from him. So I think it kind of depends on how you want to build your portfolio. I was so happy when we were talking before and you said Patrick Cantlay, and I was like, great, because he is one of the guys that I genuinely don't feel I don't feel anything about. I don't know. I'm so stuck on the middle of the road about. So I would definitely lean bearish, especially if I'm trying to build a more balanced portfolio. I don't think Cantlay fits the mold for me there.
Yep, same here.
Tough. Okay. Ludwig, we talked about him. You are going to get an opportunity to see him very early. First tee time off of number 10 on Wednesday night or bright and early Thursday morning, depending on where you live. $6.92 is the fair value. That's 22nd or better. Joe, I'll start here. Bullish on I mean, how could you not? I mean, he is
so good.
Great driver of the golf ball, which I think that long and straight, I think there are better courses for him driving, like Hoy Lake might be a little bit better, but this is still going to be a place where he's going to be able to separate. And to see what he did on approach at Deer Run last week was nice. He's very good around the greens, which I think is going to be important this week, considering you're going to miss a lot of greens. And the putter's kind of all over the yard, which I'm fine with. So fire me up some Ludwig, and we'll see what happens.
Yep. Okay, so a couple of things. Putting is one of those things this week that I have 0% in weight on in any sort of model that I'm looking at. The greens are slow, they're fescue, they're tough inside 5 feet. Sometimes you can get left with those like 80-foot putts that are like you're just trying to somehow leave yourself 5 feet on the next one. I'm throwing all putting stuff out the window. When you do that, he becomes like one of the best players in the field statistically recently. So impressive last week and have been all year. I think he's got a lot to play for. He's playing with like that young, dumb confidence that like doesn't know any better, like Tom Kim started with and like Cam Young started with, like out of the gates, where they know that they're so skilled and they just go out there and start doing it with the best players in the world right away without really thinking of it. I love the guy. I'm worried like a little bit about the price, and I want to keep an eye on that. If it starts to get in the mid $7 range is probably when I'll have to look past it. But yeah, I'm bullish on the kid all around.
All right. Well, speaking of prices, Justin Thomas is our last guy here. And in other markets, specifically the DFS market, he is the cheapest he has ever been. We'll see if that finds something similar here tonight. I have his fair value at $6.44. That's asking Justin Thomas to finish about 25th or better. Joe, you bullish or bearish on JT?
I think I'm going to say bullish. Listen, you said he's the cheapest he's ever been in like DFS.
Yes.
Wow. That's amazing to me. Yeah, this is just a gut feel buy low spot for me. There's one stat that I would point to, and the strokes gain approach at the Travelers 2 weeks ago. If you're willing to sort of isolate that one single metric, was his best round with his irons that he's had in 2 years. He was a disaster around the greens out of nowhere at Rocket Mortgage, which that's probably the strength of his game right now is like pitching and chipping. So I don't know where that come from. I just feel like it has to be a little bit closer. So I heard something with Ricky this week in an interview that he did, and someone was asking him about like how him and JT have kind of flipped, how he was struggling so bad and now JT is struggling so bad. And Ricky was like, we play all the time and Justin beats me all the time. And like Homa said the same thing in LA. So I just think like he needs a couple of like rubber bands and some duct tape and to just like go out there and play golf, and maybe he can string together a couple rounds. I do think if he keeps hitting his irons and gaining 7 strokes on approach, if he does that again, you're not going to see these type of prices anywhere on the guy much longer. I'm worried, but I'm just going to go bullish.
I'm glad you said this is just like a gut feel. Like I'm just, and as much as I would love to be a part of that. Like I can't bring myself to it. Right. I just think that I'm not sure this is also a great setup for him. Like I want to be early on JT. I want to buy low. I just don't think Links Golf is the place to be for him. So hopefully, I don't know, at this rate, he'll have to play the 3M and he'll probably win it. Like I'll buy low there. I'll just wait a couple weeks. The guy's gonna have to keep adding things to his schedule or else he's not going to make the playoffs. So I'm down on JT, but at first sign of life, I'll be back.
What do you think it is? And you mentioned it, like he has struggled at the Open Championship and with these link style golf. Like, do you have any sort of data or have you looked into anything of players who tend to have more success or not? Because it's strange to me because he does feel like a guy that is unbothered by elements and can embrace it in some instances. Like, I think to the Players Championship when it was as wild and gnarly as it's ever been, and he shot the low round of the day. But for a guy that we always think of to do so, he has really struggled over the pond. He seems to really love it there and embrace it before the event, but just hasn't been able to put it together.
I don't know. You're right.
Yeah.
I mean, it should be. I think he skews like more creative than others, right? I mean,
Right.
he has all the shots. His short game is phenomenal. I guess the putter could get exposed in some of these situations where, like you said, like you're on kind of some of these bigger greens, but you'd think that even like slow greens would be good for a bad putter. It doesn't. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't
Yeah.
add up why he struggled, why he has struggled so much, but he
Yep.
has.
I know.
All right, let's look at the big board here. And again, if you want to get involved, the code you're looking for is power. There's a link in the description. You can go get a $100 deposit bonus, and you can buy, I don't know, about maybe 8 shares of Scotty Scheffler tonight. When all is said and done, he's currently $9.82. He has returned you a profit in 3, 4, 5, 6 consecutive events. Joe, I tweeted this out just a bit earlier. If you have taken $100 and bought that amount of Scotty Scheffler shares for every event in 2023, you'd be up $636 on Scotty Scheffler alone.
Which is insane. And I'm sure if you did the thing where like you roll it over each
Oh,
event, he'd be
it's
up like
crazy.
$1 million or
Yeah.
something just outrageous
He
right
would
now.
he would own Jock Market at this point. You'd be the new CEO. Yeah.
You'd be a new partner. You'd own a percentage of the firm. Yeah. I don't know what to do though, man. I do feel like there's been a confidence standpoint where you're like, the floor is so high, right? He's not going to finish worse than sixth in a PGA Tour event. But I just think about last year, and he actually missed the cut here. And he actually drew the good weather wave. So he was in the weather wave with a significant 2-stroke advantage, still missed the cut here. Um, that's my only concern. Like maybe Links Golf brings a variable into play that is a little bit unfamiliar with him. You know, I was looking through actually on your site at his profile earlier, and I was kind of scrolling down, and it's striking. It seems like he's been around forever, right? But even when you go back to like 2020, like he's still playing like Corn Ferry Tour events in there.
Yeah.
So it's yeah, like he's finishing T3 at the Bermuda Championship as little as like 3 years ago. So the rise has been insane, the run has been insane. I just don't know if this is the spot. I love to put my dollars on him at like $12 a share.
And that's what it's going to end up costing you. So he's been over $12 for 4 consecutive starts. I can't imagine we are going to stop anytime soon here. We've got about 22 minutes to go. It's absolutely wild stuff here. Rory McIlroy, Patrick Cantlay, both right now over $8 a share. Rory at 850, Cantlay at $8. We've already talked about Cantlay, so let's talk a bit about Rory. It's weird. I don't know what the public sentiment is on Rory. He caught a big L with the live stuff. He has not won a major championship, but in this market, Joe, he's turned your profit in 4 of the last 5.
I know he's been for someone who has seemingly had a disappointing year. He's had a great year in the jock market and a great summer in the jock market. The numbers are starting to trend in the right direction, both off the tee and really with his iron play, which the further you go back, there were some struggles there, but over the last 24 rounds, he's gaining about 2.4 strokes per event with his irons, which is encouraging. The putter has started to flip into more of a positive where it was in the bottom half of the PGA Tour field. I see positive signs. I think his distance could be a big advantage if he plays it right this week. And then he goes back to a place next week where the comfort zone should be immaculate, right? He won there in 2014. He's going back to Hoylake. So everything seems to be in a really good place from what I've seen with him on social media. He's having fun over there. He's enjoying himself. I like the attitude of Rory coming into this week. It's just going to be price dependent for me. Where are you at?
Yeah, listen, he's been awesome. He's been awesome, and I don't have any reason to think that that's stopping anytime soon. Like you said, there's a price for everybody, right? His fair value tonight is 950. That is asking him to finish 13th or better. I mean, we call it fair value for a reason. I think that's fair. And based on the way it's shaping up so far, I probably won't have much of Rory because of that. I think he's going to go for over it, but we'll see. That $7 range is where these guys start to back up. Fowler, Schauffele, Fleetwood, Hatton, Fitzpatrick. You could even throw Spieth and Lowry and Minwoo into the mix. This is the range that I'm most interested in seeing how it ends up shaking out tonight.
Yeah, and not only is it guys who are in relatively good form, who are obviously world's best players. 4 of them rank in the top 5 in terms of course history at this particular place. When you do Schauffele, Hatton, Fleetwood, I mean, these guys have been fantastic here. Matthew Fitzpatrick as well has been really good at this event, is in that $7 range. So all of those players not only are coming in good form, but have played really well at this course in particular. And I think all set up, it's just kind of choose the guy that you want to go with and stand by him with some bucks.
Is that for you? Like the Hatton, we already talked about Hatton. Like that's that. Like I'm a little bit towards Matt Fitzpatrick.
I love Fitzpatrick, and I actually took earlier today, I took a number on him and a stake on him for next week at the Open Championship, which I thought was favorable. Yeah, the driving distance has been a huge thing for him and a huge advantage, and he can tend to get hot and cold with a putter, but when it's good, it's really good. He has the best resume of any of these guys over the last 2-3 years. He's got the win at Valderrama, he's got the win at Heritage, and he's got a US Open. These other guys can't say that. A couple of them are still looking for their maiden PGA Tour, co-sanctioned event or whatever tour victory. So yeah, I think that I have the most confidence in probably his upside. But, Xander's still sitting there, the defending champion, and I don't want to overlook him. And he's been really sharp with the putter and with the irons. But, last year he was coming in such phenomenal form, and the confidence, we just saw it change for him at the Travelers when he got that win. And then I believe he won, like, what was it, the JP McManus, like right before this?
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Didn't he win that as well?
I think so. That sounds
I think he won that like the weekend before at the Irish course, and then came here. But yeah, he was beaming with confidence last year and playing great. So yeah, I don't feel like you can go wrong with any of these guys. It's just going to be coming down to who you think is the best bargain.
Okay, well, let's continue down that list here, and I probably owe a refresh, but just to kind of keep some of these names in order, we then get an injection of the European Tour guys. Is there one or two of these DP World Tour residents that you have favorited that you think are worth a click tonight?
Yeah, I think one of the popular ones is also a popular one with me, and it's probably Adrian Meronk. He's probably one of the ones that I know the most about. And when I looked into some DP World Tour stuff specifically, this man is crushing it off the tee, and he is lapping the field. When I looked at this, he's over a stroke better than the next best player on the DP World Tour in strokes gained off the tee this season. He's basically Scotty Scheffler off the tee on that tour. He's had a win. He's had good finishes. I think that he is going to be very popular, though. I'd be interested to know if you have any guys in mind that you think may be a little bit more overlooked and not quite as popular, who we may get a discount on.
Yeah, first off, Meronk is 6'6", and he uses every inch of that very, very well. He absolutely smashes it. Yeah, I think there's a couple, right? And you're going to get him at different price points. Jordan L. Smith is solid. He's been around for a long time. He played well at the US Open a couple weeks ago. Finished T20, all good. I like Roman Langesk, 375. He's a poor man's Cam Young. I like Yannick Paul. Yannick Paul is a little bit riskier, but if you want that risk, Yannick Paul's $2 per share right now. And then Marcel Siem is a little bit reliant on the putter. I'll refresh this, but he's $1.90 right now. He's been playing great golf, and I don't think anybody is really caring about what he's been up to.
Yeah, it's one of those weeks where it's funny, where I think initially you have the unknowns for the majority of people, right? The majority of people in this jock market contest are coming from the US and primarily watch the PGA Tour. There's unknowns with these players, and then you start to get enamored with them a little bit, and the names and the familiarity with playing overseas. But I wonder where the break-even point, like, a T6 at Himmerland is not equal to a T6 at the Travelers, and you do a great job of providing sort of the strokes gain stats based on weights,
Yeah.
particularly with field strength. I just wonder where that breaking point is of like, how big is the talent gap event to event in these tournaments, and then how do you sort of cross compare that, from one to another? I like some of the guys for me that I've seen do both, that have competed in some majors, like a Ryan Fox, for instance, someone that I've seen have success over there, but also come over here and do it a few times on the PGA Tour. That's just more of a comfort thing for myself.
Yeah, no, and that's fair. You mentioned Sam Burns earlier. There's a couple of guys who are like untouchable at the moment. Sam Burns, $2.50. Nobody wants right now. Listen, I'm not super high on Sam Burns at a links golf course, but that's way too low. Brian Harman is still $1 with 14 minutes to go here in this market. That's obviously going to change. But as we kind of scroll down this list, Joe, I mean, there's still a lot of really good prices on guys that have not sniffed their fair values. Christian Bezuidenhout, he's lost 3 in a row, so I guess it's not great, but he's still at $1 a share. So there's a lot of, it seems like the popular names are getting the bids and everyone else is lingering behind.
Yeah, you're right. The further I go down this list, there is some surprising ones. Brandon Wu is a guy I've had some shares of. He's still just over $1. There's legitimate good players, and it's especially if you do a little bit more digging into some of the guys that are familiar over there on the DP World Tour. There's a lot of options down here in the $1 to $2 range, about 10 minutes before IPO close.
Yeah, so Scotty's broken through that $10 mark. So he's at 1016. No surprise. Rory, 888. Cantlay, okay. Let's see here. Okay, so Jordan Spieth is probably the most, well, he gets, based on his pre-rank and his fair value, kind of the most expensive, right? So he's at $7 per share right now. $6.50 was his fair value, 20th in the pre-rank. This is seemingly a buy. Most people buying, hey, it's links golf, it's creativity, it's Jordan Spieth, fire him up.
I know. I don't really have, and I usually do have a strong stance one way or another on Spieth. I don't really know what to do with him. I don't really know what to do with Max Homa. Like, those are two guys that I can't seem to get right over the last month. I worry that some of the form is just too shaky, and maybe I should adjust my strategy to, like, Ricky is more expensive than Spieth this week. Is that right when you look at a long-term baseline? Probably not, but I feel so much better in the form and the recent results of someone like Fowler that I'm like, okay, I could spend 3 more quarters and go up to Ricky, or I could go up to Victor or one of these guys. With there's so much more known to me than some of the concerns that I have with someone like Spieth.
Yeah, I think I'm in on Spieth, out on Homa is, I guess, the best way that I would put that. But you're right. It's like, when you start comparing the Ricky Fowler stuff, Ricky Fowler is going to burn everybody at some point. I don't know if it's this week. I don't know if it's next week, but I mean, guys eventually miss cuts, and that's not a knock against Ricky. Everybody does it, but we are back at, I mean, remember, like, 3 years ago, Ricky was the most popular fantasy golfer, you know what I mean? And now he's playing well again. Everyone is getting back into investing in him.
Absolutely. And with good results, if they have been doing so, obviously coming off the victory and the breakthrough, which was so great to see for Ricky. But yeah, even coming back here, like, he played, I remember pretty vividly, like, he played really well here into the weekend, and everyone was rooting for him to qualify for the Open. That was like the big storyline, and really sort of faded on the weekend. Ended up obviously finishing 47th, but a good, like, great history here over the years. Always has come over and played this event many times before the Open Championship, and has had success in the past. And the ball, like, look at how many events in a row has he gained strokes ball striking. Like, he is in a really, really good spot with his swing, which he was struggling with. And now we see the putter flip. He jailbirded, right? Are you jailbirding now? Did I see that?
It hasn't been delivered yet, but I ordered it. So I ordered it. I don't know how long it's going to take for it to get. They're probably mass producing them as fast as they can, 24 hours a day around the clock at the Odyssey factory. But yeah, I ordered it. We'll see about this magic putter that shows up.
I saw Mina was tweeting about you're spending a lot of money on golf clubs these days. I'm like, how many jailbirds did the guy get?
Just one, but I'm addicted to golf. Yeah, so I mean, Ricky has returned you a profit in 9 out of 10 jock markets. So it is not. I mean, it's very well deserved. It's very, very well deserved. We've got about 10 minutes to go here. The code you're looking for to get involved, it's Power. There's a link in the description. That'll get you a $100 deposit bonus. You can play the prop pick'em side of things. Jordan Spieth's first round strokes prop has been moved from 68.5 to 70.5, which is 2 strokes in your favor, obviously. So if you want to get involved, now is certainly the time. I want to quickly, Joe, flip to the second page because it's getting late very quick here. Flip to the second page, and this is where I think things really get interesting. It's no longer the top end PGA Tour golfers. You've got Billy Horschel, Dylan Wu, Michael Kim, SH Kim, et cetera, et cetera. And it's not necessarily the top end DP World Tour players either. Richie Ramsey, who's actually playing pretty well. Let's see, Thurston Lawrence, Callum Hill. Some of these guys are going to have great weeks. We just got to figure out who they're going to be.
Yeah, we just got to figure out who it is. That's all. I like Cam Davis is in here, and like I may be a little bit behind, but I'm showing $2.01. I just think this is a good course setup for him. And then there are a couple of English guys who I think have been playing better. They're not playing great, but they're playing much better. Ross Fisher and Matthew Southgate, they've had a couple of good finishes in a row. Southgate in particular has had 2 of his better weeks ball striking. I believe 2 of his last 4 tournaments were 2 of his best 4 ball striking weeks all time. So he's in really good form. He qualified for the Open already, so he doesn't necessarily need this week. He made it through a 36-hole qualifier over there, so he's playing well and should have some confidence. But those are some of the cheaper guys. You know who I was looking for is Rasmus, because I saw Nikolai Hojgaard. Is Rasmus, is he not?
He's here.
Where is he?
Right now he's at $4.15.
Okay, got it. Okay,
yeah,
I see him now.
Yeah, there he is. So $4.15. If you wanted to go for $4.50, that would ask him to finish about 38th or better. He's fresh off the win. He outlasted. He won like a 6-hole playoff last week, so he is rocking and rolling as well.
Which skill set do you like better for like a tournament like this, Rasmus or Nikolai? Because they seem very like polar opposites in terms of where they're gaining strokes.
I probably like Nikolai here.
Okay, with the off the tee game.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that's. Again, who the hell knows? But that's where I lean. But they're both great. They're obviously. All right, Joe, I'm gonna get you out of here in just a second. You've got eight minutes until this IPO closes. I can see the bids. I mean, we're seeing them fly in real time over here. There's a Cam Davis bid, Sam Burns, Doug Gibbs, Sahib, Robert McIntyre. They're flying in over here on the right hand side. Goals for this week, or do you have any? Are you gonna stick to the guys the PGA guys? You're gonna take some flyers. Like, what's the plan?
Yeah, I'm going to kind of let it fly in there. My goal for this week is basically to turn a profit. I see you up there on the leaderboard last week. You know how these things go. You go through these ebbs and flows, but I was on such a tremendous run there, and I've had a couple of weeks in a row where I've lost a little bit of money. So I'm just going to try to get back to basics, take my 7 to 9 guys, a couple at the top, a couple in the middle, a couple down low, and see if I'm able to churn anything out. And of course, pay attention to the live in-play trading, as I think that could be very advantageous this week in particular, especially as we get to sort of day 2 if things get gnarly.
You can literally catch people sleeping.
Yeah,
they will literally be sleeping as this tournament is happening, and you can catch people with open orders that shouldn't be open or whatever it might be. They will literally be sleeping.
No doubt.
All right, Joe, get out of here. We will rendezvous with you here in about 6 minutes or so, and I'll take you the rest of the way. Scotty Scheffler, no surprise, and I can't imagine it's going to change anytime soon, will be the most expensive golfer in this IPO. Now, what's that final price going to be? $10.67 right now. That asks him to finish about 11th or better. Now, he has not been in the $10 tier since the PGA Championship, $10.25. RBC Heritage, he was $10.57. Generally, he's more expensive than this, so I think we are going to get a little bit of a late run here on Scotty Scheffler. Rory McIlroy, your 4th pre-ranked golfer. We talked about this a little bit earlier. That pre-rank matters. That is how we break ties here in the jock market. So if there are 15 guys tied for second, the tiebreaker is whatever their pre-rank is. So Rory McIlroy's is 4th. That means he breaks ties with everybody but Scotty Scheffler, Victor Hovland, and Patrick Cantlay. Everybody else, Rory McIlroy wins that tie, gets the full share. He's currently $9.50. He's right at his own fair value. Patrick Cantlay, who I think Joe and I are both taking a little bit of a bearish stance on tonight, is just below his fair value by about 75 cents. He's coming off of a 55% positive ROI at the Travelers Championship. He was a loser 2 weeks in a row prior to that. Small loss at the U.S. Open and a pretty big loss at the Memorial. $8, that tier. Hatton, Schauffele, Fowler, Hovland. This is where everybody's lining up. Would not surprise me if the winner came out of one of these 8 names. Those 4 and Fleetwood, Fitzpatrick, Clark, and Spieth. It's just a matter of how you're going to get them and what that final price is going to end up being. Then you get a couple of savvy vets here in the $6 range. Shane Lowry, $6.99. Justin Rose, $6.25. Adam Scott, $6.22. And our past champion, Min Woo Lee, who's got 3 separate triple-digit ROIs in his last 4 starts. When Minnie plays well, he gets towards the top of the board and usually returns you a big-time profit. Scotty, hanging strong. Not much change at the top. Let's see where that movement is coming in down here at the bottom. There was a little bit of run on Ludwig, now up to $5.78. He's still below his fair value. $5.78 is asking him to finish 29th or better. Certainly been capable of doing that already in his young career. How about Sung J M? Haven't really talked much about him. He's got a decent fair value, 702. He's only 575. Pre-rank is strong, showing signs of life at the Travelers, signs of life at the Rocket Mortgage. I think we're getting good Sung Jae again. You like well-rounded golfers who hit it long and straight and have good short games. It might be that time for Sung Jae. A couple of the DP World Tour guys making a run as well. Alexander Bjork now up to $5.65. Jordan L. Smith over his fair value. He's at 447. 447 is asking him to finish about 39th or better. So not a super big ask at that price, and even a smaller ask as you go down the board. Adrian Otegi, $3.54. He's been playing decent golf, and he plays on LIV. I think this is the first time a LIV golfer, I'll refresh the board, is playing an officially sanctioned PGA Tour event, or at least co-sanctioned in this case, which is interesting. The refresh here reveals, well, let's see if it refreshes. We will reveal something. Yeah, there's the run on Scotty. 1137. That we knew that was coming. There was no way he was going to stick in that $10 range. 1137 now being asked to finish about 9th or better for Scotty Scheffler. I'm going to check on my shares real quick. Okay, I've still got some shares out. I got outbid on Richie Ramsey. Otherwise, the rest are sticking strong for me here. Tommy Fleetwood, big jump up to $7.95. So he is now currently being asked to finish about 18th or better for Tommy Ladd. That's not bad. Pretty good link style golfer. Let's see. Sahith at 467. Eric Cole, 464. Rasmus, 462. Rasmus outpacing his brother by about 40 cents at the moment. Let's go to page 2 real quick, because this IPO is going to close probably in the next 60 or 90 seconds or so. We've got David Law, who's been playing well. He's been hot on the DP World Tour. He's $2.83. People have figured that out. He's $1 over his fair value. Matt Southgate nearly doubled his fair value. People have figured that one out as well. $2.76 per share right now. But 276, just to be clear, is asking a golfer to finish 55th or better. Essentially make the cut and do a little bit more. We are moments away from this closing. 5:59. Let's see.
We're closed.
Okay, I was just going to say.
I just had an order fail to go through, so that's usually the signal.
That's the sign. All right, we're going to refresh. We're going to see what. Yeah, it is. We are definitely close. Okay, we'll see what the dust clears, what the final pricing was, but we don't have to wait long to see these guys in action now.
No. They're teeing off here in 5 hours?
5 hours or so. Yeah, that'll be nice. All right, Joe. Why don't you let us know who is in your portfolio for this week's Genesis Scottish Open?
You got it, buddy. Tyrrell Hatton, Matthew Fitzpatrick were my first 2 plays in the higher range. Truth be told, lost out on shares of both Xander and Tommy Fleetwood late. but also ended up stacking a few guys in the $5 range with Ludwig and Justin Thomas. We talked about both of them. And then in the $4 range, I got three guys here: Yannick Paul, Lucas Herbert, Adrian Maronk, which we spoke about, and then Matthew Southgate, which you mentioned late, who did go for 276, which was quite a bit higher than his fair value, but I still think holds some legs to potentially make a run and make the cut, and that'll surely pay off good if he does so.
Hatton, Fitzpatrick, Ludwig, JT, Yannick, Lucas Herbert, Adrian Maronk, Matthew Southgate for Joe. I held on to shares of Alexander Bjork. I got him for $5.65 per share. I got shares of Andrew Putnam, $3.79. Aaron Rye, $5.25, and Alex Smalley at $5.05. That's my, which I kind of love, honestly.
Yeah, it's a good price on Rye. I actually liked him and probably overlooked that. And Smalley's obviously been in the midst of probably his best run of his career.
I love that. All right, let me refresh this board one more time. See what Scotty got to. Certainly was the most expensive. Certainly no surprise. Yeah, okay. 1177 for Scotty. That's asking him to finish about 8th or better. Hard to argue.
Yeah, it's a lot to ask, but it's actually probably one of the cheaper prices he's been in. His last 4 events, he's cleared $12 in every one of them. So maybe a little bit of a discount this week with some of the unknowns going over the pond for Scotty, but we'll see how it plays out. I mean, it feels like when he wins, he's going to win by like 7.
Correct. Yep. 3 in the $9 tier. Rory $9.75. Cantlay $9.50. Xander $9.30. I'll tell you what, man. Am I missing something here? Is Cantlay just gonna like win this thing?
I don't think so. We were both bearish, so I certainly hope not. But I can't get past paying up the extra quarter to go to Rory McIlroy with the form that he's in and how you avoided that, and then even going down cheaper to Xander Schauffele. I like both of those players better, and I think set up better than what Patrick Cantlay's been playing coming into this event, and what I expect them to come out of this event with.
A quarter more for Rory, and Xander, Victor, Hatton. We're all cheaper, even if that's the list, right? Maybe that's the list. And then you just kept Cantlay a little bit lower, but man, it's pretty aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
Fowler at 830, Fleetwood 799, and you got shares of Fitzpatrick at 756. All right, here's the most interesting guy of the week, Jordan Spieth, right? Just because he's got a bad pre-rank, he goes for 710, he goes for over his fair value by about 60 cents. There's so much of the discourse for whatever happens this week will be overanalyzed for next week.
It's such a good point because we are going to absolutely latch on to what happens this week. If you like a guy next week, like I mentioned, a good number on Fitzpatrick, and he top 5s this thing, he's going to be so popular next week. You're not going to get a good price. But yeah, he'll be an interesting one. The other one is, Wyndham Clark. We didn't really talk about him coming off the U.S. Open win. Played pretty well here last year. $7.33 per share, I think, is the cheapest of anyone in the top 10 besides Bjork, who probably was the misplace in there in 10th. Is an interesting price for me, and he's been that guy for me that I've really sort of been wrong on all season in terms of thinking, okay, this guy is peaked, he can't continue this forever, and he just continues to stack really good results. And if you look at what he does well, should set up pretty well for the old Renaissance Club.
I love it. Well, listen, I'm going to go take a nap, and we are going to start this, and I'm going to have my Jock Market open, and I'm going to say, look at all these losers on the East Coast sleeping, and Ludwig is already 3 under through 3. I'm going to buy a couple shares of that, right? Like this is going to be a lot of fun.
It's going to be so much fun, man. I love doing this show every Wednesday with you. I'm excited to do it next week. And of course, see this thing sort of kick off in a couple of hours and get that early morning coffee golf is always fun to watch when you get your good names out there.
The link to sign up is in the description. The code is POWER. Go check it out. There's so much good stuff coming from Jock Market right now. They're absolutely crushing it. We will be back same time, same place next week for the Open Championship. Joe is available on Twitter at TourPicks. You can find me at RickRunGood. This has been your Power Hour for the Scottish Open. Good luck.